Hello, it's Rich Rosen, founder and CEO of Fastcall, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes about phones used to place outbound calls. Now, Fastcall has a bunch of different ways that we use phones. We have phones that we use for outbound calls. We have phones that receive inbound calls. We have phones that are used as caller ID. And we talk about those in three different pages, and I'll have three different videos. But in this video, we're going to talk about phones used for outbound calls. So I am actually looking at Lightning and I'm in console, though I could just as well be in classic or traditional console. Here, the OpenCTI phone is in the footer, and you'll see that we are saying in the bottom of the widget, click on the phone on the Salesforce record, and we'll dial using the soft phone and the caller ID. So here are my settings in the widget, and I'm gonna show you these both in the widget settings and in the application settings, but these are the settings in the widget, and you're gonna see that I have calling devices, which is where we're listing our phones for outbound, and caller ID, and there's just separate settings. So in this case, I have a soft phone set as my device. And we do have some separate videos where we talk about the soft phone specifically because there's some specific requirements around the soft phone. But the soft phone itself has no phone number, just a soft phone. So we tell it what we're going to use as caller ID. Now, in this particular case, the caller ID is a fast call phone number that will also receive inbound calls, but that caller ID could be a verified phone number of a phone that I already own, such as my office phone or mobile phone. Um, though we do cover caller ID in a separate page as well. So for phones that we're going to be using for outbound calls, our options are the soft phone, an office phone, could be a mobile phone. I may have multiple phones listed here. This is a SIP phone, which we called VoIP. SIP is Session Initiation Protocol, which is just a VoIP protocol, an IP phone basically. So all my phones are here, and these are the phones that I can use to make an outbound call. So the soft phone is going to dial the user in the browser or the headset. The office phone is what we often refer to as click to call, where we're going to call the user on her office phone first, and then we'll dial out to the Salesforce record. Um, we often call this option a soft phone and this option click to call, though the reality is the entire application is click to call because we are clicking and calling, and the entire application is really a soft phone because it's software. Soft phone means software phone. Um, so though often those terms are sort of used interchangeably, for fast call, we just refer to the headset option as the soft phone, and the click to call option as using an office phone or a hard phone, a mobile phone could be too. So those are where the phones are selected. Now, you should know there's an option for a call logger, which is going to log your call but not dial. The call logger is used when maybe you're in a conference call and you just need to log the call. Fastcall does have some subscribers who use that option exclusively because they're not actually using Twilio to dial. And we do have a subscription level that supports that. But call logger is there. We also use it for testing. It's a good way just to test the application without dialing. But if you are in the call logger mode, so if I come back in here and we are in the call logger mode and I click the phone number, the application is just going to log the call. It's not actually dialing. It's going to say logging call. It's never going to turn orange or green because it's not actually dialing. But I can still take my notes here and end the call as I normally would, close the task. If I come back in here and I say, that's wrong setting. If I come back here and I say, oh, and for the call logger, there's no option for caller ID because we're not actually dialing, so we're not presenting a caller ID, but you can for the call logger, you can say, is this an outbound call, an inbound call, or internal, which are the options for call type. But when I switch this back over to, let's say, the office phone, and then I see my options for caller ID again. Um, when we're actually dialing, we don't have to set the call type because we know that. We now know that you're dialing an outbound call, receiving an inbound call. But now here, if I click, Fastcall is going to dial the user on the office phone first. There's an office phone. The user answers that office phone, and then we start dialing the outbound number. So those are phones, how they're chosen by the end user in the widget. So let me just show settings real fast. So phones are managed in two different areas in the application. So the user can pick those phones both in the widget itself or inside the application under user settings, or what the user will see as my settings devices. So they're listed here. We are automatically taking the office phone and a mobile phone if they are set off of the Salesforce record, Salesforce user record. Not all users will have phones on their user record, but if the user does have phones on their Salesforce user record, we will pick those up and you will show them here. This is where you can add any other phones that are going to be available both for outbound calls. These phones can also receive inbound calls, but that's set up separately. But this is basically where you're adding any of those devices. You just add them over here. Um, could be, again, an office phone, a conference room, a different location, but those are all managed here. Those are devices where you're actually adding any hard devices that you own. Okay, so, and these are all for the users. Now, lastly, before I go, the admin does have control over which phones the users see. Right now in the application, we have this listed under outbound calls, call initiation. We're making the outbound call, though reality is these devices are also used for inbound, so we actually do need to change this. But as an admin, you can go under here to these devices and you can enable them or disable them. If you do not want the user to see the call logger, you turn it off. If you do not want the user to see the mobile or SIP, and you only want them to see the soft phone, you would set that here, and then the user only sees the soft phone. So if I come back over to this record and I come back into settings, you are only going to see the phones that you set up as the admin. So it depends upon your requirements. Okay, so that is information about outbound phones and devices in Fastcall. If you have any additional questions, please email us support@fastcall.com, and we look forward to answering any questions.